Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in a new brand episode of Pro Wrestling Culture, where the big boys play. Here I am, Aldo Fiadone, and here with me, the special guest of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, your brand new NWA World Television Champion, Mims.
How you
Hi,
doing, my
champ.
man?
Very,
Hey.
very good. And you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm a new television champion, so I've got to do. I've got to be doing great, right?
Yeah. Great, absolutely. So I want to start this conversation with your last success. You are the new NWA World Television Champion with a victory against Ziki Dice, a former
Mhm.
champion, and he was a very important person for the NWA during his first run. And after 3 years on Impact Wrestling, he chose to be back where all started. So, what did this victory mean to you in this moment of your career, in particular against a wrestler like Ziki Dice?
Oh, it was a really big deal for me in my career. If anything, I would say it's probably one of my biggest milestones yet. Obviously, I mean the first big milestone is just coming into the world of professional wrestling, and then after that, it's finding a home, finding a place that you can kind of call home. And that was the NWA, getting signed to NWA, and then after that, having the opportunity to be a part of the more important side, I guess, of pro wrestling. The more important side being that you're on the upper side of that card where you're actually one of the guys that's considered for a title at some point. And that's kind of what I have been for a little over a year with the NWA World Television Championship. And luckily, after all the defeats and the shortcomings, I finally went ahead and found that prize that I've been looking for so long in that NWA World Television Championship. And then specifically, with winning it against Zicky, it's a big deal for me not only to win it, but to win it against a former champion, somebody who's already held that title, that prestigious title, and is coming back for it again. It makes that win that much sweeter, that much bigger. I mean, obviously, I would have been happy to win it against Jordan Clearwater or against Tyrus, but it's still just as great to win it against a
Yeah.
former champion in Zicky Dice.
In fact, this is not that wasn't not the only occasion for the championship because last year you wrestled Tyrus and Jordan Clearwater for the television championship. So, how are you proud about your improvement during the last year in NWA?
I'm actually very proud about my improvement. Honestly, you're not going to know about all the improvements that you make over time until you're able to look back at them. So it's not something you're going to notice while it's happening. All you're going to notice is the extra reps in the gym, the longer workouts, the quiet nights to yourself where you're focusing on not just reflection but looking into the future and trying to improve what you've already set out there in the world. Uh, so to be able to go back and look at it and see where I kind of went wrong and how I improved that over this past year and a half or so, to get to this point is kind of amazing to me. And I like to be more of that mindful person now, to be able to look back and kind of smell the flowers and kind of just take in the moment.
Yeah.
I think before my wrestling career, at that same point where I first started a challenge for that NWA World Television Championship, I was stuck in the here and now, but also stuck in the past. I think, where I was just happy to be there. I was happy that I've accomplished what I had to get to that point, but I wasn't focused on the future and seeing where things could possibly go. Where do I go from here? I was just kind of focused on being in that position. I think that's part of like the mindset that kept me away from that title for so long, that now that I've changed it, now that I've improved it, along with everything else in and outside of the ring, it's kind of got me into that champion mindset. It's got me into that champion mode. And luckily, I have a title to prove that now. I have a title to show that same change, that same improvement that I've been making.
And if you still the NWA World Television Champion for many time, you will have the opportunity to the big gold belt, the 10 pounds of gold.
Yes, I'm actually very excited for that. That's one of the reasons why I love the NWA World title, World Television title. I'm sorry, the World title too. Obviously, I'm gonna love that because
Yeah,
hey, if I get these
yeah.
7 wins, I'll get to have one of my own. I'll get to have my own reign with
Yeah.
it. But with the world television title, why I love it so much is that there's so much creativity baked into the stipulations that come with having that belt more than any other belt in the world. Not only is there a 6:05 time limit, or at least by the champion's decision, whatever time limit they want, but you're encouraged to go for that old school 6:05 time limit, which makes very interesting matches, which can make a very interesting story between me and any opponent that I have. But on top of that, having the opportunity to have a direct line, a direct way to jump from just being the NWA World's Television Champion and dominating there to having the opportunity to face a bigger challenge going for the world title
Yeah.
baked right into that title itself. That's kind of just there's just chef's kiss. It's perfect. It's perfect for a belt. It's perfect for promotion in general. I feel like more promotions should have special belts like these that kind of force everybody to look at a champion's reign a lot differently. So I
And
think this definitely adds into it.
yeah, and it's a great opportunity for you because you are the television champion, and right now NWA signed a new deal for the television deal for CW. This is a big improvement, not only for the company but for you because you represent the television part of the company.
Yeah, that's definitely true. If anything, when it comes to the possibility of the television deals, because who knows where we're going to go, I haven't heard official word from any of the higher ups or anybody specifically about where we're taking any of these two television shows we have coming up with these new TV deals that are in the works. I see that a lot of journalism outlets are saying CW, and that would be very exciting, and I'm very hopeful for that. But I don't have that official word yet, so I wouldn't know exactly where it's going to be. The only thing that I do know is that wherever we're going to end up, I'm going to be walking in as your NWA World Television Champion, and we can kind of say that, I guess, in a way that like I'm Power's champion. Because I'm sure the show
Yeah.
is still going to be called NWA Power. Why change that? But wherever we go, I'm going to be the champion of that show, and I'd like to be the face that's kind of ushering in another new era inside of a new era of NWA. And so it's pretty great to know that when it comes to this new TV deal, I'm going to be one of those faces that's going to be front and center on the programming.
Absolutely. And you are a part of the NWA roster since the launch of Power in 2019, the
Mm,
first year for Power, and the most important weekly show of the company. Um,
mm.
how that company, the NWA, changing during the last 4 years, and how COVID and the pandemic era in general influence the entire business, including the Billy Corgan choices.
Yeah, I think with anything, seeing the changes that happened over time have been kind of monumental. I mean, a lot of the shifts that we had led to successes for me, led to me finding my place on the roster. And so, though those were very unfortunate changes, I think there's a lot of good that kind of came out of some of those unfortunate changes. Um, though I can't speak so much of positive things or looking at silver linings whenever we have such a crazy historic event like the pandemic that started around that time that really really changed things for us. But it's if I can try to look at those silver linings a little bit for my own situation of being a part of the roster, eventually getting signed, and then becoming the television champion, it couldn't have happened without those very unfortunate changes. And then also for some of those very unfortunate changes, it led people within the NWA to go find greener pastures. And by all means, I'd like to say thank you not only to the people that have left the NWA because of the fact that they made NWA great in the first place. They're a part of why what we're doing is so great in those first 3 seasons. And then also I'm thankful that those people get to find a opportunity that it more satisfies them, and that's more of what they want out of professional wrestling, because we a lot of people don't always have the opportunity to get exactly what they want out of professional wrestling. I'm doing that right now with the NWA, and I'm going to continue to do that with the NWA, but there's not as many people in the business that get that same kind of choice that I do. They don't always get that opportunity to kind of realize their dreams with professional wrestling, and we're all kind of doing it. We're just all doing it in our own way. And I think that's kind of fantastic to look at whenever we look back and see the faces that are no longer around the NWA, but they're still making sure those faces are getting out there. And fortunately for us at the NWA, we got one of those faces back in Aziki Dice. And that's only going to
Yeah.
create better television for us. That's only going to create better rivalries. It's only going to create better stories. I mean, hey, I'm getting to enjoy that right now. At the time that we first started Power and Zicky came in, I was definitely a fan of what he was doing, and I was a fan of how he connected with the fans and myself, because I was also a fan too. Uh, how he connected with all of us whenever he was on screen, and even backstage. And so I get my chance to get in there and say, hey, well, not only am I just a guy watching you backstage and building the ring that you're wrestling in, I'm one of your contemporaries. I'm one of the guys that's looking at you as another opponent. I'm a competitor. We're both competing in
Yeah.
the same company, and we're going to be on a similar level. So, just with all those changes, I try to take in as many positives as possible. But I like how the NWA has grown. You know, and I think with this new TV deal coming in and ushering in an even newer era of Power, because there's been so many new eras when it came to
Yeah.
the NWA, when it came to Power under Billy Corgan in this Lightning One era, I guess, as we can still call it. Um, a lot of those changes are only for the growth of professional wrestling and the growth of the NWA, with the territory system being enacted, and then also with the TV deal. It's more change that I'm glad that I'm still here for, and I'm glad I'm going to continue to see it through.
Absolutely. And you were a part of Impact Wrestling in 2020 because you've wrestled there against people like Zachary Wentz and Reno Scam. But have you ever think about another opportunity also on Impact because they living right now another big shining for their history after 21 years.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I always look for great opportunities in professional wrestling and whatever I could possibly do to give back to professional wrestling in the ways that it gave to me, even before I became a part of the business, a part of the sport. I think the ways they gave back to me as a fan were always incredible. So if I can go anywhere and give back by performing and competing at a top level with any company, whether that be an Impact, an ROH, an AEW, a WWE, or even NWA, I would relish the choice. But I would relish a chance. But still, I think where my mind is focused at right now is definitely the NWA. That has my full attention and my full focus. It's where I got my start at, and then also where I'd like to continue to be. I want to make for sure that I'm a part of those building blocks that are building up the NWA. And that's what's been really important to me since the start of Power, even since before that, is that we're building something great here in professional wrestling that everybody's going to benefit from. I think it's only going to make the business better for everyone from the top to the bottom, from the majors down to the indies. And I think I really enjoyed my time at Impact. I really enjoyed the opportunities that I was given there, in being thought of enough to be able to have an opportunity to perform in another company during such a hard time for everyone. And I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I took those lessons, I took the things that I learned through those opportunities, I took those and I applied my craft even harder. I found ways to improve myself and make things better for, and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging about myself, because my main goal is to get back to professional wrestling and make it better than when I found it. I think those opportunities also help me in that same quest. The way I improve professional wrestling is by improving myself and then using that improvement to give back as much as possible. And I think if I can get better through whatever opportunities come my way, it's only going to provide better support that I aim to give to professional wrestling as a whole. So I was very fortunate to have those opportunities. But hey, NWA has my heart. I got to stay where I got to stay.
Okay, until this moment, do you have do you prefer a match that you've wrestled until this moment of your career? Okay, the match against Ziki Dice for the title is not an option.
Yeah,
It's too easy. But
that
I
that
think
is too easy.
I think your match against EC3 in on NWA 74 and your match against Clearwater, there are two options that I want to mention. But do you have any other match that you prefer?
Yeah, actually, if anything, I love that match as you mentioned with EC3, but I think we actually had a really great one that hopefully will see the light of day that happened during the World is a Vampire tour, where we had a couple matches we got to wrestle. I think this one may have been either in Tampa or it was in West Palm Beach, and hopefully that match sees the light of day. Because honestly, with that one, I felt like I was somebody who vastly improved from the first time that me and EC3 met at NWA 74, and I actually really brought it to him in this match, and it was a good back and forth. It was something that I could say is probably my claim to fame in saying that I'm a real threat to EC3 having this television title. And you never know. It could be EC3. It could be Tom Latimer after the Solid pay-per-view that is holding that NWA World Heavyweight Championship. But at least I could say in this match, you can clearly see that I was not only competing, but I was really hanging in there with a current NWA World Heavyweight Champion. But I think if I had to think of like my favorite match ever, I think it has to be something that unfortunately didn't get to see as wide of an audience as I'd like. But you never know with this new TV deal. You never know what may happen and what may come out that was filmed beforehand. You never know what may pop up. But it was a match between myself and I think it was possibly one of his first few matches in the NWA. Freshly debuting Mike Knox. It was myself and him, and it was a very emotional and heartfelt match, and it was a very hard hitting match. If anything, I think it was one of my best matches from a very sentimental aspect, from a very emotional aspect. It's something that watching it back, especially being a part of it, it tugged at my heartstrings. And I think that's something that, as a professional wrestler or even just as a fan, that's really what you come there to see. You come there to be emotionally involved in what happens in that ring, what happens outside of that ring, but what happens on camera in general, you come to be invested in. And I think that's a match that I feel like, with or without the promo that came right before it, which was a very fantastic promo. And I usually don't like to sit here and say how great I am. I'm usually my own worst critic, and I'll say every match I have is terrible. Every promo I did is the worst. But I feel like with that promo being so impassioned and being emboldened by the unfortunate situation that we were in, that really caused myself to get attached to this match even more. And I feel like that would get fans attached to that match even more. It's hard to sit there and have a man spill his heart out and then go and fight as hard as he can for what he believes in and not be super duper involved, not be emotionally attached to that. And if anything, I think that speaks a lot to my character as a person, is that I felt like I was protecting or I was fighting for the honor of somebody that I truly loved and cared about, somebody that's seen as a mentor who had unfortunately gained an injury. And so to see that kind of passion out there in the ring, to hear that kind of passion on the microphone, I think that really moves me. And I think that would move anybody who'd watch. So it's definitely something that I highly recommend to everybody to go ahead and watch, especially if you're a new fan of mine or you're just kind of getting introduced to me now as the NWA World Television Championship. I think with that promo before that match itself, so early on in my career, I think that is probably going to be the best thing to kind of describe or give you an introduction to who I am and get an introduction to why I am NWA World Television Champion.
The big, strong Mims.
That's me.
Absolutely. And my last question, do you have any funny story that you want to share with me and the Pro Wrestling Culture fans?
Oh, actually, now that I think about it, I think I have one.
Yeah.
It's not a super long story. I wish it was a little bit longer and a little bit more entertaining, but it's just
Don't worry.
it's something that I guess comes with a lesson. So the lesson is, I'll start off with that. The lesson is any aspiring pro wrestlers, any pro wrestlers in general, whether you're aspiring or you're the top of the card guy, walking in as WWE champion or NWA World Heavyweight Champion or whatever world champion you are, always make for sure you check your gear. When I say that, I mean it as a general term. Check if it's
Okay.
clean, check if it's dirty, check if the colors are running, check if you haven't really washed the blood out that well, check out if it smells great or if not, or in my case, you know, check if it's all in one piece. So this was very early on in Power. This is actually, I think, the very first episode of Power. So I get my first opportunity to go out there and have a match, and it's supposed to be a match against my, at the time, coach in professional wrestling, Tom Latimer, who was my coach, I think, for the last year of my training. I was training for about 2-ish years. And at that time, he was still my trainer. We would actually finish training earlier that week. And I kind of found out I was going into this match to get an opportunity against him and Royce Isaacs. They were the NWA World Tag Team Champions at the time. And me and another one of the trainees, Danny White, were getting a chance to possibly take it off their hands for him. Well, this is kind of how that went down. So I was wearing a new set of gear that I had for me and my tag partner at the time, Miggs or Miguel Robles, who's had a few appearances
Okay.
on Power here and there.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
we had a certain set of tag team gear. It was something cheap and silly, like when you're first getting started, you got to get what you can. So it was a pair of just like black shorts, and man, I was so excited to get out there and have this match. And so I'm in the black shorts, got my boots on, got my knee pads on, my little tiny 50-cent knee pads or whatever jokes they make about those. Uh, and so I'm in the hallway stretching out, getting ready to go out. And like 5 minutes before we're supposed to hit this curtain, 5 minutes before we're gonna, have the audience come up and everybody's gonna be cheering, and we're coming out there from a very first opportunity for a television appearance. And I'm bending
Yeah.
over doing my stretches. And Kyle Davis, of all people, this is the first conversation I ever had with this man. He sees me stretching. He bends over, taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? My name's Kyle. Nice to meet you, brother. Just gonna let you know. Uh, we can see your butthole. We can see your butthole. There's a big old hole in the back of those shorts." He was like, I don't think you want to go on television for your first appearance and for our first episode showing the entire world where you poop from. So he was like, I hope you got some backup gear. So I guess the second lesson we can kind of put in this one is also always bring a backup. Always make for sure your gear. Always check your gear, and then also always make for sure you bring backups. If I wouldn't have been on the first episode of Power. Something told me before I left the house that day to drive all the way down to Atlanta. You should probably bring both sets of gear, so then you get to see me in my old Lucha gear. I think it was black with some flames on it. So luckily those came in clutch and got me through that very first match I had on Power. Because let's say I just brought those little shorts and I didn't bring that extra set of gear, it would have been
We
a
should
very
check your
different episode.
gear.
Oh yeah, I
Absolutely.
don't think they would have been able to show that match. They would just cut that one. Oh, that's that guy's butthole. Okay, all right, that's that's what kind of show this is now.
Fantastic. 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 Champ, thank you very much for your time with me, for
Yeah.
your time with our fans of Pro Wrestling Culture Podcast, and sincerely, that was a privilege, a real privilege, because this is the first time that an NWA World Television Champion come here on Pro Wrestling Culture. Sincerely, thank you. And congratulations for your week victory, and I wish you the best for your title reign and your career.
Well, I thank you, and hopefully this is not the last time you have an NWA champion in general, or especially world television
I
champion
hope so.
on your podcast. Hopefully, it's not the last time.
Thank you very much, man. Again.
Oh, you're very
Bye.
welcome. Bye bye.